Time for some more TRIMET-oriented entertainment. This is part 2 of the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission, who is questioning the TRIMET people. Let's continue.
Members of the public to provide public comment. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes, and we'll let you know when you're nearing the end of the time. Do we have anybody signed up?
We've got 5 hours of material here, by the way, because right after this, they had the regular, see here, can you see it? Right after this meeting, they had the board meeting. These suits have to sit at a lot of meetings. Better than driving a bus, though, right? And 5 times the pay.
We did not receive any signups for public comment.
Nobody signed up again for public comment because nobody really knows what it is. I mean, nobody knows what this is. I'm one of the few people that understand it.
District receive any signups for this hearing this morning? No, so we have no public comment this morning.
Okay.
Of course not. Your public comment comes at the board meeting for the TRIMET anyway. This is ridiculous. Okay.
Great. Well,
whoops.
Dive into our questions. I have the first one. We know that rider fares don't pay the bills, but the ridership is a key public perception about how the transit system is doing. We also know that the return to office is still slow. What is your best thinking on ridership recovery? Will ridership return? And what incentives and persuasive techniques are working for TRIMET to encourage more riders?
All right, well, we already know the answer to how do you get ridership? Safe, reliable, frequent. And we have none of those 3 components. Those are the only things that will power your people to take transit. It's got to be safe, it's got to be reliable, it's got to be frequent. And 15-minute service doesn't really qualify for frequent, even though TRIMET says it does. You know, frequent service is 10 minutes or less in most of the world. It's not 15 minutes because if you miss your 15-minute bus and you've been out there for 10 minutes ahead of schedule waiting for it, now you got 25 minutes, and if the other one's on time. So that's not convenient. So let's hear their answer.
Thank you, and I think Sam's going
to. So, Chair, I'll start off here with that, and then I think Nancy and I we're gonna tag team this question and talk back and forth with each other. But I'm really excited to inform all of you that ridership has been steadily increasing up to a level of 64% of 2019.
Oh, wow. 64% of 2019? That's pretty good, actually. I didn't even think it was that. If he's not lying, of course. But you never can tell whether they're telling the truth or not because there's no way to audit anything they're saying.
As of March 2023. Ridership on some of our frequent service lines, I heard, several to 17. It's even higher. It's up to 72% of pre-pandemic ridership. We're seeing that ridership gains in the middle of the week with more office workers returning to work. This is a great sign given that our service levels have been down by 22% for the past year.
22? So it's been down 22%. It's even worse than I thought.
Compared to pre-pandemic service levels. But we expect system ridership to continue to rebound. Ridership patterns have changed from what they used to be. So in general, we expect work schedules, particular for office workers, to continue to be in flux currently. Additional ridership patterns continue to show ridership demand growing in the midday on weekdays and also on weekends with less concentration on the weekday peaks. So the morning AM rush hour and the PM rush hour has really kind of fizzled and faded away a little bit. TRIMET has completed an extensive bus service restoration plan, including extensive public engagement that's called Forward Together, that adjust our service based on these new travel patterns that are there. The first set of improvements are being voted on today at our board meeting. Right after.
Let's make it clear that the Forward Together plan was announced by the executives and their marketing It was foisted on everybody, and then they got the public comments after they had already decided this was going to be the way it was. After they spent a year and a half telling us they were going to restore the original service.
This meeting here, and if approved, will be implemented very soon. The overall Forward Together plan improves service throughout the district. It focuses on areas where ridership gains can be expected. A couple of call-outs. We're going to have 8 new frequent service bus lines running every 15 minutes or better, most of the day, every day. The extensions of our bus lines to new areas, more weekend service, and a reallocation of service away from historical low ridership areas to areas where ridership potential is greater. With the full implementation, 50,000 more residents will be within walking distance of TRIMET service on the weekdays, and 110,000 more residents on weekends. Additionally, the number of jobs reachable by the average resident will increase by 49%. So we are very excited.
How do they even know that? What do you mean? How do you know the reachable jobs increased by 49%? I'd love to know how they came up with that one.
About this. The upcoming May 28th, 2023 service change includes some of the changes that are expected to attract new ridership. The creation of a new frequent service line, the line 17, Holgate, and we're going to bring adjustments to running times for several of our bus lines that will help ensure on-time performance based on post-pandemic traffic. So more service and more frequent. TriMet has continued to invest both in cleanliness, safety and security, and 2 other key factors to help encourage ridership. We will continue to hire more service workers with the goal of cleaning every vehicle.
Oh, by the way, they are finally installing the bus barriers. Where is it? Okay, where is it? Oh, well, I'm looking for specific. Where the hell is that? I've just posted the notice of the bus barriers. I guess it was yesterday. I thought it was today. I can't even keep track of all this shit I look at. What is this? Well, anyway, they actually have posted that they're installing the new barriers on doing 30 a month, I guess is what I read. That should have been done 2 years ago, and they shouldn't have gone through the step of having these shitty barriers. What they should have done, John St. Clair pointed it out, who's an ex-bus driver, who's a friend of mine. Here's what he says. You see that? 1, the fact that they're upgrading is a tacit admission that the first ones are inadequate. Absolutely. 2, they're still inadequate. TriMet could have spec'd these years ago that the driver area be fully enclosed. Absolutely. Right. You just get that as part of your bus order. You're going to enclose the driver's compartment when you buy the bus. It's already done by the engineering of the bus, like they do in Europe.
Every night, plus deep cleaning every vehicle every 30 days. Finally, we
deep cleaning every vehicle every 30 days? Jesus. That's not enough, Sam. Every week I would be acceptable. It should be every day, really, but I know you don't want to hire cleaners because they'll take away from capital projects and executive positions that you've been running 180 miles an hour, adding all these executive positions there.
Continue to expand our safety and security workforce. through our safety response team and by increasing our numbers on our customer safety supervisors. There are some elements of this recovery that TRIMET can control, and we are actively working to address that. But then there are other elements that we're working closely with our partners to get people back on transit. Partnerships are critical for TRIMET. We are carrying out transit priority treatments in our roadways at intersections like our Better Bus program, our bus-only lanes, our signal priority, to make sure that transit vehicles aren't getting stuck in traffic and making transit a more competitive mode choice.
Right.
We're working hard to make transit that attractive choice.
One point also,
I wonder if he wrote that himself. Do you think he writes this? Or do you think one of his assistants writes it for him?
to emphasize is just our businesses and our footprint calling for employees to return to in-person work. And that will also have an impact on our ridership numbers as well.
I have a brief follow-up. We've noticed a budgeted increase for special events,
What? What? What?
Thank you very much.
Wait a minute, what happened?
For several of our bus lines that will help ensure on-time performance based on post-pandemic traffic. So more service and more frequent. TriMet has continued to invest both in cleanliness, safety and security, and two other key factors to help encourage ridership. We will continue to hire more service workers with the goal of cleaning every vehicle every night, plus deep cleaning every vehicle every 30 days. Finally, we continue to expand our safety and security workforce through our safety response team.
The reason I'm going over this again is because it skipped.
And by increasing our numbers on our customer safety supervisors. There are some elements of this recovery that TriMet can control, and we are actively working to address that. But then there are other elements that we're working closely with our partners to get people back on transit. Partnerships are critical for TriMet. We are carrying out transit priority treatments in our roadways at intersections like our Better Bus program, our bus-only lanes, our signal priority, to make sure that transit vehicles aren't getting stuck in traffic and making transit a more competitive mode choice. We're working hard to make transit that attractive choice.
One point to also emphasize is just our businesses and our footprint calling for employees to return to in-person work. And that will also have an impact on our ridership numbers as well.
I have a brief follow-up. We've noticed a budgeted increase for special events.
What the hell happened? What the heck?
Thank you very much.
Did you, what the heck? How did that, where's the answer's not, well, I just ran it through twice. You saw it yourself. It wasn't a glitch on my end. They like deleted a portion of the video there.
Fair increase. This is going to be discussed today. And we wanted to have an opportunity to talk about the driver increasing fares.
Oh, so now now you got to be kidding me. This is this is the leader in technology. Look at this equipment they have here.
Reductions in service, although I know that now kind of service is being added back. Thank you for the detail given us on the first answer. And as ridership changes, we're just wondering kind of what all the factors are and what alternatives were considered before deciding to propose a fare increase.
Yeah, as we look at the fare increase, it's important to understand both our revenues and...
Can you believe this? Can you believe this? Because I can't. Their file is corrupted. We can't hear the answers.
Our expenditures. So as we look at TriMet's major resources, which are our employer payroll tax.
Oh my God.
As well as our revenues, is increased with the exception of our passenger fares.
Look at this! Look at this! so TRIMET, it's unbelievable. It's not me, it's this. It's still, see, the counter's going exactly right. So we're not going to be able to do the fucking meeting. Is that how this is going
stimulus
to go?
funding. Bridge the gap to continue to provide, even though our ridership was low. As we look at that, our possible revenue streams for funding. Also, an additional contributor to our resources is the amount of competitive grants that we have received. Since 2014, we've received more than $1.2 billion competitive grant fund. Diversification of our revenue sources allowed TRIMET to maintain a triple rating now.
At the low fare income.
Can you believe this? Can you fucking believe this?
At the low fare income and our student fare program, we've implemented a HOP system with fare capping, and we've implemented many safety and security initiatives. The inflationary cost drivers continue to be escalating costs and the need to invest further in our state of good repair. We also need to have the ability to sustain service. And if inflationary costs continue to rise with revenues not keeping pace, the agency, we may be forced to consider service reductions in the future.
Oh, see,
So
so we don't get to see how. So we missed the whole goddamn thing about this. This is the exact same thing they rolled out in 2008. This exact same storyline. If you've been around as long as me, you'll remember it. They were going to lay us off. I remember all the drivers going crazy about who's going to get laid off. All the mini runners have to go first and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't get to hear the question, and the answer's broken up.
it's critical to us moving forward. We have a deficit that is on the horizon, and we as leaders, we want to take the fiduciary responsibilities to make sure that we push that out further to be able to provide service to our communities in all three counties, to make sure that people are put in positions so that they can succeed by us providing transportation services for them.
So he gave some, this is very disappointing. I can't tell you how disappointed I am because this is my favorite meeting. And we just missed the whole goddamn question. And
As we look at the alternatives, Sam already has mentioned some of the triggers that we've put in place from the fare capping. We've increased.
So we missed this whole argument, man. This is the one thing I wanted to hear, and it's missing.
The transfer rate to 2.5 hours. We've implemented the low-income fare program. All of these are alternatives. In addition, another alternative is to not increase fares. And in fact, TRIMET has played that alternative for the last 10 years. As we did so, at least in part, there's always been a reason not to increase fares. And there will always be an argument not to increase fares. But by choosing that alternative, which is roughly about $5 million a year in annual passenger.
All right. So you got that right at least. It's $5 million a year out of a budget of $1.9 billion. 5 million out of 1.9 billion. Figure it out.
Revenue, the agency would not be receiving those funds, and that amount has a continuous escalating factor in our long-term financial forecast.
Right, but you can fund endless capital projects, endless bureaucracy expansion, but if we don't get that 5 million, we're going to go under. It's a complete, it's the best gaslighting I've ever seen.
Currently, even with a fare increase and a bottom threshold for a commitment on state of good repair, the agency could look at a fiscal deficit as early as 2030. If we were to invest...
I don't believe you. I don't fucking believe you. 5 million a year in 7 years is 35 million. What a liar.
In state of good repair at the level that we really need to, the fiscal deficit would hit TRIMET in fiscal year 2026. Therefore, we believe a fare increase is necessary for this agency. So will disapproving a fare increase alter our agency right now today? No, but it will have an impact on our customers and our employees in the long term.
No, it won't. Only because you're saying it does. Okay, 2030, you're gonna collapse if you don't get that 7 years times 5 million, 7 times 5. What is it? 35? Is that what it is? I mean, they're just fucking liars, man. You know? It's just amazing how they can. Let's see what it is. Yeah, 35 million. So if they don't get $35 million, they're gonna go under. It's nothing.
Thank you very much. It's a really holistic answer. It seems like some of
answer. That's a shit answer. Ask them fucking questions about it. How can you be going under when your budget's 1.9 billion? How can you put forth this argument?
the criticism, I mean, at least in past years, the criticism of increasing fares has been about pricing people out of being able to ride. And it seems like a decision has been made to target, to introduce a low-income fare and to expand some of the other fare alternatives. And I wondered if the district could talk a little bit about, how you balance the factors, and particularly like equity factors.
Yeah, there's no equity. Well, actually, it's no, because to raise fare on somebody that has no money versus raising fare on somebody who has plenty of money is not equity, okay?
When thinking about, an increase for everyone, but also increasing kind of the targeted fare reduction programs versus, maybe keeping fare reduction programs at a lower level and also reducing or eliminating of an overall fare increase.
Great question. And again, John Gardner coming back.
Here he is, John Gardner, your equity specialist.
So we did a lot beginning in November to partner with communities to really understand.
Now, here we go. We have partnered with the poverty pimp organizations. It's what he's talking about. The community-based organizations are all poverty pimps.
How this potential fare increase would impact those most vulnerable to the system. And so we've been very lucky and focused on making sure we're hearing from community-based organizations.
By the way, if you want to wear a mask, don't wear that kind of mask, okay? That does nothing. You need an N95 or better. This is nothing. You're wasting your effort with this mask. If you're interested in wearing the mask, at least wear the right one, like this one back here. Now, there's a lot of controversy about whether it's any good at all, but I don't wear them anymore, but because I think it's ridiculous at this point. But the fact that if you are going to wear one, wear that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to be cautious and keeping the germs away from you. There's nothing wrong with that, but at least use the mask that works.
So back in November, we began working with 66 culturally specific organizations from across the Tri-County region.
66 organizations. That's not people. That's not low-income people. That's poverty pimps.
Right? So they were the ones who held the open houses. They were the ones who had the events that ultimately allowed us to hear from over 5,000 riders and stakeholders. And then we direct marketed to our reduced fare program participants, the vast majority who've given us their emails to give us their feedback as well, or our Riders Club. So we've spread this challenge and this upcoming decision to 200,000 folks in terms of impressions. So of course no one wants to see cost increase. But that's why when you look at our mitigations, we're proposing no fare increase for a monthly capping. So today, if you're an honored citizen, if you're a youth, a low-income adult, or a senior, or someone with disabilities, you will still...
that I'll buy some of that argument, but, there's a lot of people that don't use these. You have to have a debit card or a credit card to get the advantage of that. And a lot of people don't have that, and they're not going to get the advantage of this because they have one of those. I don't know how this works, actually. If you don't have, you get one of those throwaway hop cards. I don't think you can get the fare capping on those.
They'll pay only $28 a month to ride the system, which is still, again, 72% off the cost of fares. We've indexed our cost across the rest of the country, and we still feel like we have one of the most equitable fares for any public transit agency, especially with our reduced fare program. And within the budget, I think you'll see an additional $15 million of fare subsidy that we're pushing out to also try to reduce the burden of a proposed fare increase, while still being able to generate revenue.
Look, let me explain this to you. raising the costs on the poorest people is just evil, period. It's just evil. You know, you can come up with a million excuses. Well, if you ride enough times to be fare capped, it's not raised. But how many people actually do that? I mean, it's a phony argument. What they're doing is evil. It's just that simple. They shouldn't be raising the cost for the lowest income people.
To make sure we have a sustainable system. Because the only thing worse than not increasing fares is to have an unsupported transit system for transit dependent.
See, they're trying to argue to you that if they don't get $5 million a year, your transit system is going to fall apart. Anybody with a brain can tell you that this is nonsense. It's nonsense. It's not true. He's bold-faced lying to you here.
Riders. So we feel very connected.
And that's why they all get paid a lot of money like this, because they can lie well. Okay, they defend the elites who are imposing austerity on us all over everywhere. And they're doing it shamelessly.
Obviously, we heard a lot of pushback, which makes sense. No one wants to see their costs increased. But we were able to have those conversations across 10 different languages over the last 5 months. And so we feel like we're being very
We were able to have those conversations with 10 different languages. He makes a good executive, doesn't he? He'll probably be a CEO of one of these transit districts someday.
responsive in the most equitable way possible.
No, you didn't. It's bullshit. You're lying and you're a liar.
Thank you. So you mentioned that without the fare increase, you would see deficits in FY 2026.
What?
Could you talk more about what
Deficits in 20, you mean in 3 years? It's $15 million. I can't even believe that these people on the commission here don't understand what they're actually peddling.
the impact on services would be to move your budget back into balance if the fare increase doesn't go forward?
Yeah, so if the decision is made to forego a fare increase, the first thing that we would do is actually pull back our adopted budget resolution in the May board meeting, as the budget does have the fare increase embedded in it in both our resources and requirements. And so we would pull the budget back, we would remove those elements, and then we would resubmit for an adopted budget.
We already know it's going to pass. We already know this. It's a foregone conclusion. It's all lies
In the June meeting. Sam?
Okay, Sam, you're on.
So failure to raise fares will also slow our ability to fully implement the Forward Together plan mentioned earlier, which is specifically designed to increase ridership by addressing changed travel patterns and widen easy access to public transit. So disapproving the fare would have an impact on our customers as we evaluate the level of service enhancements and expansions to be implemented or pushed out to a future date when a fare increase passes. Again, delaying this increase will also cause a larger fare increase later. And not approving the increase would definitely impact TRIMET service plans, as all passenger fares are used for.
All right, gonna go look at this again, man. Operations, 458 million. 39% of the budget is operations. Can you see it? 39% of the budget is operations. That means what, 71% of the budget is not operations? Is that right? Yeah. I mean, you just look at the general and administration. It's half of the operations. That's supposed to be 10% of that. The debt service, that's the criminal banks.
For service, and this could lead to a delay and restoration of service hours and service expansion in the future. And we know
This is the argument that we get from all of the transit people that the idea of fare-free transit is abhorrent to them, the whole concept of it, because they're stuck in their little box. They're stuck in their mind and they just can't see it as a possibility. But you see what they did here? They cut your service 22%, and now he's trying to say, if you don't raise fares, I can't raise your service back again to the level it was. It's such lies, man. You know, just look at the Better Red, $220 million. Okay, 7 years of a fare increase, 30 million, 35 million. Better Red, 250 million. So just use your brain. You can see this is a very obvious lie.
Expanding service and increase in frequency is going to be the key in our overall ridership recovery
It's a
plan.
giant scam. See, she's wearing the right one there. If you're going to wear it, if you mean you're going to waste your time. If you live this, I don't know, some of my friends think I'm crazy, but I mean, look, man, there was no pandemic, okay? The pandemic, there would have been 1 billion people dead. You would have known people all over in your social circle who had been killed by this. It never happened. It was all a lie.
I've known Nancy for quite some time. So you rang my bell when you said long-term forecast. So no fare increase for 10 years, relatively modest increase on the table that has yet to be determined. So focusing on your operating costs, fares, payroll tax, your federal formula grants and other types of grants. Let's talk about the long term. We're here specifically to consider your 1-year budget, but so 5-year horizon maybe, or you even pushed out to 2030. So what do you see with your primary operating sources, fares, payroll tax, grants, and are there any other operating revenue possibilities out there?
So it's always a challenge to find a new revenue source. And if you look at TRIMET's portfolio currently, we receive funds from our employers. Everyone in our footprint, they pay the employer payroll tax. Okay? In addition, you've got employees now paying the employee payroll tax through the state Transportation Improvement Fund.
So that tax grab, that was the tax grab where they didn't even bother to ask you. They just did it. The elites who hate you and steal from you stole part of your money without your approval with that HB 2017, also known as STIF, this one here. That's all money that was stolen from you without your approval.
We receive federal funding, formula funding, that's based off of our ridership, boardings, and our operating costs. So we automatically get that every year based on our services. And then, you know, after that, as I mentioned earlier, we go after discretionary grants. And we are quite successful in that endeavor. So now we've looked at federal, and then we've got employees, we've got our businesses. We also look to state and local opportunities to partner with others as we bring forward different projects in the community. So as we assess the overall need for that additional revenue, and we look at our expenditures in the future years and the service levels that we want to provide, while also addressing state of good repair, we continue to explore further opportunities as they come. We've looked at everything from, is there an opportunity to get a continuous stream, say, of lottery funds? So far that answer has been no, but we continue to knock on that door. So we continue to explore those opportunities, and we continue to partner with those in our community. But as
she's probably $275,000 a year. This guy's probably $300,000 a year. That guy probably close to $300,000 by now. I'm not sure. I don't know.
You can see we've hit kind of every main resource that is possible. And as mentioned earlier, all of those resources have continued to increase over the last 10 years, except for our passenger fares.
So you are in deficit financing this year.
What?
As Mr. Dessous said, expenditures exceed revenues.
What?
How long, I mean,
They're
so
not in deficit
in the five
spending. He just said the budget is balanced. God damn, you know.
year horizon, is that going to continue?
I don't believe anything
How long
here.
can it continue? What's the impact of that?
When COVID hit and we realized it was an immediate, it was like a light switch, right? All of a sudden your ridership is down because we've issued stay-at-home orders. And so all of a sudden nobody was out.
Yeah, they just completely ruined the world. The global elites destroyed everything based on a lie. Okay, based on a lie. Get that straight.
On the system. Nobody was out on the streets. TRIMET purposed to cut spending significantly so that we
They
could.
didn't cut anything except your service, ladies and gentlemen. No capital projects were cut. No executive salaries were cut. No executive positions were cut. As a matter of fact, they kept adding them. They didn't cut anything. That's a fact. Look at your budget. TRIMET.org. Go to the transparency area. Look at the budget for yourself. You can see what's in there. It's all right there. You have to take you like hours to look at it, but it's there.
Could increase our unrestricted fund balance so that we could carry forward those funds into the future to address those pending shortfalls that we saw
I don't
coming.
believe them.
And we
They're
have been
lying.
very successful, very prudent in our spending.
You have not been prudent in your spending. I know you. I know what you've been doing. I'm following you. You're lying, man. Stop lying to us. I wish they would stop lying. It really gets tiring having to listen to them lie.
By only going forward with those things that are absolutely necessary. So we
Fucking
cut
liar.
back on things like.
Oh yeah, the better red was absolutely necessary. The Office of Equity with which, by the way, is $5 million a year. The exact price of the fare increase is the new Office of Equity.
Hey, there's no travel, and we've got to really look at those purchases and stretching that dollar. And collectively, as an executive management team, we've done a very good job of doing that. It was with purpose. As you know, our policy is to maintain a 2.5 months operating reserves, and if you look at it and do the calculation, we're significantly above that, but it was with purposeful intention.
Yeah, sure.
So that we could move those funds forward, so that we don't face a deficit today. But we've got some reserves in the bank, so as we go forward. So currently, we are anticipating, depending on the amount that we spend on state of good repair, that we can get to approximately fiscal year 2030, based on what we know today.
I don't believe them. I don't believe them. All right, all of this. Let me just take a look at this, man. The fiscal cliff. Let it load. Come on, load. Here it comes. Now look at this. Take a look at this. This is a brand new bureaucracy that was just created out of the blue. Chief inclusion. Okay, so that's what he gets. That's Gardner. 283,000. Manager, civil rights, 134,000. Manager, DB workforce, 123,000. Diversity, equity, inclusion, 146,000. Manager, engagement program, 134,000. Project manager, senior, 113,000. I mean, they just created that out of the goddamn blue, man. Oh, look at this one. Okay, look at this one. She says, oh, we've been so careful. Can you see? Service and planning and delivery. See, 900,000 in 2021. 13 million in 2024. More like 14 million. So that's like 14 times. That's 4 times the amount of the fare increase. So there, I can show you this all day. I've done my homework.
There's some unknowns out there that we will have to adjust for as we move through the calendar.
People believe this shit.
Safety and security is a key driver.
All right, I've had enough. That's just ridiculous having to listen to this.